Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Zulu's Painting Show. Now, we've done a couple of episodes painting a couple different things, but I feel like I've given you a good snapshot of what the painting looks like. However, what I'd like to do today is cover some of the things that I've brought up but haven't had a chance to really go over, and that is fixing some of my mistakes. On occasion, you'll see as I'm painting, I'll make a little boo-boo here and there, and I'll say, oh, well, I'll just fix that later. Well, now is that later. So today we're going to be grabbing a couple of models and just trying to finish them up, clean up some edges, and make sure they're just really as pristine as possible. So let's go ahead and hop down to our model cam. So you might recognize some of these guys from before. If you don't, that's okay. The videos where I painted this guy the first time are archived on Facebook. So if you go back to some of those, you can watch the original painting of this. I believe this guy was painted 2 weeks ago. So yeah, you can see this get painted. You can figure out how I got to this point. Now, if you'll notice at the end of the last episode, there definitely wasn't as much painted on this guy as there is now. Just a second, my cables seem to have gotten tangled. There we go. So, on the last episode, when we ended, he had his arm done and a little bit on his body, and he still didn't have the light green on the leg here. So what I've done is I've finished some of that up, really gotten in there, and I'll give you a hint. You can see the problem spot now. You want to guess where it is? If you guessed his blue leg bits, you're right. So the blue leg parts I was doing kind of near the end of my session, so the lines got a little wide. I've also been noticing that these exhaust ports for his jump jets, I don't know, I'm not really keen on them, so I might do the metallic that we have for some of his joints on those to really help that pop. Thank you, Micah. See, the lighting and the contrast is really what's helping me here. So, yeah, I think let's go ahead and dive into fixing some of these mistakes here and there. Also, somehow it always looks dusty to me, like as it is. So, this is why it's very important to write down the colors that you use, because I only mostly remember, which is not probably good. Speaking of which, that color that we're going to be using is the Kalimdor Sky. That is that dark blue you can see. So we're peeking a little bit. I'm not keen on that. Yeah, okay, cool. So we're going to snag, let's see, let's grab the starter brush. I like to use the starter brush as my sort of get the paint out of the pot brush, just because it has a nice sort of small tip. Also, for any of you who have been struggling on trying to get your Citadel paints out of the pot, you can use the back of the brush and then just sort of roll it onto your paint palette. I prefer a wet palette just because it keeps my paints wet for longer. I don't generally keep the same paints from session to session. Just part of the reason I don't generally mix paints. But I find that while I'm working, it helps keep a good consistency to the paint. I don't have to worry as much about thinning my paints because it's already sort of thinned on the palette for me. And it's kind of my preferred style. All right. So as you can see, the lines here are a little smudgy, they're a little uneven, they're kind of all over the place, but that's okay. Yeah, I definitely want to turn those exhaust ports metallic. Yeah, we'll come back to this. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab our, for this one, I went ahead and snagged I went straight to the character brush, just because I want very thin, very detailed lines. Now, the difficulty we're running into is we're not at a great angle for getting nice, sharp lines, but we'll make it work. So I'm just going to start trying to even up those lines a little bit. See, even just that single brush stroke, I've already straightened up the line just a whole lot, which I very much enjoy. Now, I also got a little bit in this groove here, which I don't want. Make sure I'm still in a good angle for you guys. What's nice is I can kind of use the contours of the model to help guide my brush, which is helpful. I've also found that on occasion, coming back to a model to do some finishing touches makes it a little bit easier. I know that like the reason why his legs are the way they are is because they were the last thing I did at the end of a painting session. So I had gotten to the point where I was just sort of done with it, and I hadn't stopped painting. So sorry, I'm trying to see where still needs to get got. So what I've done for these, oh man, those leg panels are really big. Okay. So what I've done is, for these ones, is kind of the opposite of what I've done up here. Oh, there we go. Oh. Trying to find you in a good spot. So these ones, the light comes in. It's along the top and then down the side. And these ones are going along the top and then down the outside. So sorry, inside here, outside here. Just to kind of create a little bit more visual interest. And what I've tried to do is kind of keep that consistent along the leg panels. But as you can see here, my light blue's gotten a bit bigger than my dark. So I gotta sort of reestablish the color. Now, the reason for that is because when you're dealing with things like your shading and your other color, sorry, I'm getting. So if you have a shade from your lighting, to kind of maintain the illusion, you want your lighter color to be smaller than the darker color, and if you make it bigger, then it doesn't really, the illusion doesn't really hold, because it's that whole kind of expectations thing. Your brain is sort of expecting only the sort of edges to be highlighted, but if you do more than the edges, then it gets a little wonky. Oh. Well, see, another one of those spots where we're going to be cleaning up. We've got some spots on the metal that I've touched that I don't want to, so we're going to go back over and fix those. Now, as you can see, we've now got 3 colors on that leg. You can kind of see it. I want only the 2. I want my dark green and I want my dark blue and my light blue. So I want to make sure that I really cover the light blue. And again, we're back to that concentrating silence. Yeah, see, now that blue is a much sort of sharper line as opposed to the, I probably still have it here. Yeah, that kind of fat line. Actually, I think this side I didn't. I just plain old missed some. Yeah, I did. Oh, man. Also, there's a couple spots you can see the light blue has only had 1 or 2 coats, so it doesn't really have that that nice color that we're looking for. So we're gonna have to go back over with the light blue and then hopefully not make it too fat. So that'll be fun. Again, any sort of recesses in the model should not have the light blue in it, because that would be a shadowed area. Yeah, we definitely sharpened up those lines. Oh, and I think, yes. This shoulder was another problem area that I was like, well, I'm going to have to come back to that, because you can see on this side, there is a dark blue line between this far side and then the corner there, whereas on this side, it's just one big dark splotch. So we're going to need to fix that. It's going to be interesting because that means I need to just make a thin dark blue line through this. Oh, man. There we go. See? Clean this line up a bit too. Now, for this particular model, a lot. So one of the reasons that I definitely have to go back and do this is because a lot of what I'm trying to do with this model is have very crisp, clean lines. So if you weren't, uh, sorry, I'm trying to check on my comments regularly, and thank you. I do definitely try to Bob Ross it as much as possible. I feel like that's sort of our yardstick for painting, right? You want that calm, soothing voice to help you through your painting difficulties. Because goodness knows, painting can sometimes be a little frustrating. Oh goodness. Especially when you have too much water on your bristles. So it's good to try and help maintain your calm, because a calm hand makes good straight lines. All right, where are we at? Yeah. So yeah, today, like I said, going to be a lot of me trying to fix this guy's legs. So we're just gonna, just do the thing. One of the things that I very much enjoy is, and in that kind of Bob Ross style. I don't know if I mentioned this, but the other day I was painting a model, and I accidentally, and I think I saw this actually on the BattleTech painting Facebook group. Is I was dry brushing, and I accidentally dry brushed a spot that it wasn't meant to. It was a model that had a combination of sort of kind of metallic look, like good old fashioned, just metallics, like the gun here, which we're gonna do some work on the gun later. But I accidentally dry brushed onto the painted metal part. It's actually a similar design to my original Wolverine, which I might snag to show you guys later. But as I looked at it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. That actually looks really cool. So then I ended up going through and doing some edging along the painted parts to make it look like it had seen some sort of wear and tear. And it looked really good. I was very happy with how the paint job turned out. But it wouldn't have ended up being done if I hadn't accidentally gotten paint where it oughtn't to have been. So, you got to turn those sort of happy accidents into what you want them to be. And I'm thinning up these lines a little bit more than maybe I need to, just because I'm coming back with the light blue, and I'm going to be doing some work on them, so. And this is unfortunately, so I know that I definitely have talked to a couple painters, and they say that they don't, the problem they have with their painting is they never know kind of when to stop. Unfortunately, that's not a really good way to know that. Sometimes it's just when you feel like you need to be done. Sorry, time for a coffee drink. Delicious coffee. So yeah, sometimes you'll just get to that point where you look at the model and you say, I cannot paint you anymore. And I think that's a perfect time to stop. Take some time. Don't look at it or worry about it. Spend some time away from it, because it's once you've kind of had that time away that you'll come back and you'll see what things that you can live with and what things sort of drive you nuts. I have more than a couple models where I've returned to them after having been gone for a while, and I'm like, oh, actually, that looks pretty good. Or, oh, how did that happen? How did we let this happen? Let's fix that right now. Like these leg panels, for instance. Okay. Oh man. Yeah, we got some weird stuff going on in here. Oh, sorry. Don't mean to bump you there. And ironically, part of the reason that I paint the way I do is because I don't like to try and get these little grooves in here. But now that I've accidentally put paint where it oughtn't to be, now I have to. Oh, there's a little bit of light green there that I need to fix. All right. I think we've gotten most of our lines skinny enough that we need to add a little bit more of the light blue back in. Yeah, all right. Clean the old brush out. And we are back to our light blue, which I have to remember which one it is. I remember I said I was going to write these paints down, and I didn't. That's because I'm bad at memory. All right, so if I remember correctly, mostly because I don't have a lot of blues, so this is my lightest blue. We're going to go to the Lothran blue. And again, you don't need to use Citadels. Those are just the paints that I've spent the most time with, so those are the ones that I'm comfortable with. And you don't even need to use pre-mixed paint. You could, if you'd like, and if you are more comfortable with it, you could take this blue here, add a little white to it, and then go from there. You know, and sometimes that sort of level of control can make it so that it's that much more of the colors that you want. I always caution that if you're going to do a squad, have a pretty good idea of how you mix your paints the way you did. Otherwise, you'll have two units that are supposed to be together, but have definitely a different look to them, which I might go over later, because I definitely have a lance that has two mechs that are supposed to be the same, but have slightly different color schemes. And I need to figure out how I'm going to rectify that. It is probably going to end up with the one getting painted to look like the other one. But I don't know. It might just be a mercenary mech. Also, if you don't play Battletech and none of that makes sense, that's fine. I can explain more if you would like. All right. So let's get in here. Oh, man. So normally, with little tiny lines like these, what I'd be doing, now you get to see my hands not be able to make straight lines. What I'd be doing is using the contours of the model to sort of help me with this. Letting the sharp sort of edges pick up the paint, much like I did with the cockpit here. But here, I cannot do this. So I have to just go slow. Remember to breathe. And also, this is when knowing the distance, or distance. how long your bristles are is so very important, because the reason that even a brush that is as skinny as this one, the reason that it will widen out and make those big fat lines is because I've pushed the bristles too hard onto the model, which causes them to fan out a bit, which then of course makes the place where you're putting the paint get wider. Also, for those of you who didn't know, that's how calligraphy pens work. They are split down the middle, and as you press harder, they open wider. But through surface tension, capillary action, the same stuff that we're using on these guys, they make the ink sort of fan out wider, and that's how you get that cool calligraphy look. Which it might be interesting to play around with doing like numbers or things on a mech using a calligraphy pen. Or just pens in general. Like I've definitely seen that utilized. Nice thin lines. Just what I like. You know, I'm kind of liking how that's turning out. It's got, oh, a little bit more on that one. So the difficulty is, of course, even with such very thin lines like this, you still got to remember to sometimes do multiple layers. And I know it's nerve-wracking. I know you're probably thinking, but I did the one line the once. It's fine. I really want to make sure those lines are nice and dark. Might have to go in the second time. All right, so yeah, as you can see a little bit on that, on those sort of knee bolts, you can see some blue where it shouldn't be, and there's a little bit on that green as well. Oh man, what a mess! I'm sure some of you are saying, "What mess?" I don't see what you're talking about. Yeah, no, there's a little bit of color where it shouldn't be, and I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing that can really kind of bring your model painting to that next level. Just, you know, taking the time to go back through and sort of clean up some lines. I know you really want to be done, and I'm with you. I also want to be. Oh, you can. That shoulder has a nice big splotch there that shouldn't be there. Now, part of me kind of like. So this is a perfect example of happy accidents. So that could very easily be battle damage. However, I want these mechs to look like they are fresh off the factory floor. Like these guys have not seen any damage at all. They haven't even fired their weapons yet. One of the things that you could do back here is to put some like charring as the smoke from the missiles have left. And I'm actually, so let's go ahead and pop over to this guy since I have him anyway. Also, I forgot to grab my other handle. That's okay. I'll just hold it. So with this guy, I've already started that idea of he's been in combat for a little bit. You know, he's had some conflicts. He's been through some damage. You can see there's some rusting here. There's some more recent damage that he's gotten from combat engagements. So if we can get to this guy, which I don't know if we will today, one of the things that I'll do is I'm going to put some darkening around here, because as the missiles leave, they've got those fire jets that are going to leave soot and smoke and things there. And then you've got this exhaust area here, which is where the rest of that smoke would be coming out. So this purple is not going to stay pretty. It's going to get real dark and nasty. Because, you know, gotta get the soot stains. Also, I feel like there should be mud in his knees. Like this guy has fallen over and had to pick himself up before. So yeah, we'll come back to him, hopefully. But this guy's the one we're focusing on today. We want to try and get him all finished up. We've still got the jeweling of the cockpit. We've got to remember that well, I think for this one, I'm just going to say that this isn't the glass of his cockpit here. I think this is just the only glass of his cockpit. And this is just a wet brush, so I'm not actually making sponges on there. So I think we're going to hop over to the metals, because we want to make these exhaust ports metallic. And I've painted myself into a corner quite literally just now, because I like the green on the top of these, but I think the sort of the rim of it is going to get metallic. So we got to do our two-layer sort of style with the metallics as well. So hiding behind here are my paints. We're going to snag Lead Belcher, and I think it's Lead Belcher. I think it's changed its name. Storm Host Silver. That's it. Yeah, Lead Belcher. Give Lead Belcher a shake. So... Oh goodness! And of course, another sip of coffee. I'm sure for the viewing audience, this is riveting. Oh, delicious coffee. Got to make sure to always really shake up your metallics, because they can separate pretty easily. One of the things I'd love to start looking into would be what's known as non-metallic metals. So with the metallic paints, there's literally little fragments of metal. That's why your water will, on occasion, get to be a little bit more. Oh, I should have my metallic paint or my metallic water. I always forget that. So yeah, so the paint actually has little fragments of metal in it, and that's how you get those reflections and the shine to it. I am gonna grab a second water because I don't want to fill my regular water with metal flakes. Please hold. Now, if I remember correctly, I've done this before in a previous episode, and almost immediately I ended up dipping my brush into the metal water. Or the non-metal water. So I've set the non-metal water aside. We're going to our metallics. Let's go ahead and snag. Oh, gave you a little boop. Sorry about that. Go ahead and grab our brush. Now, the only thing to be mindful of with your wet palette is how wet it is. For two reasons. One, it can cause your metallics to separate, so the pigment and the metal part can become two separate things. And two, you can kind of see it on my palette. If there's too much water, your other paints will try to mix. And then that, oh, that's a lot louder than the other one. I'm going to fix that. Just gonna take this lid right. There we go. All right, let's see. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead. We're just gonna keep with this character brush because we're doing some high detailed areas. So first things first, let's go ahead and fix those spots that we mentioned. Oh, see, I've already separated my metal too much. I feel like metallics are one of those ones that they're much more prone to separating than other colors. And then just a little bit of paint over top of there. Yeah. Perfect. And a little here. And let's just go ahead and check some of the other spots. We got a little bit of green on his hand here. We'll go clean. How's the gun looking? Gun's not looking bad. Got a lot of reflections off the green. There's a couple spots we can kind of clean up. Oh, yep, got some elbow grease here. Other elbows looking good. I think that needs another wash. Well, it's not really dark enough for me just yet. We'll do that real fast before we hop into too many other things. Let's see. The rest of the knees looking good. The hips are looking good. Shoulder, barrel. Yeah. Yay, managed to keep most of the paint off the parts it should be. Well, okay, there's a little bit right there. I'll be honest, this is a tricky spot in general. Now, see, now what I've done is I've gotten some colors where they oughtn't to be. So I'll come back. I was gonna do the light green lining for that anyway, so we'll come back there. Plus we have to do that thing. See, I'm in such conflict because it looks like such a good scratch, but at the same time, I don't know, maybe there's like one scratch on this mech. It's just so hard to take away because it's such. But at the same time, the cleanness of the other shoulder is also very appealing. Just big slabs of metal. But that's not what we're doing right now. What we're doing right now is we're cleaning up metal. So we've got most of the other spots done to what I like. So let's go ahead and get in here. And we're just gonna do the exhaust ports of these jump jets. Do the knobby bits here. And it's funny, it wasn't until I was painting the light green on these that I really noticed them. And that made me realize that if I like, this is a detail that I would like to have other people notice. Like this guy, and one of the sort of like hallmarks of a Wolverine is that it does fly. So I might as well sort of bring that out. Plus, because I don't have really a third highlight color, so in some of the other mechs, that one's a bad example because it also only has the 2 colors. I like to have a third color that sort of spices things up, and you can kind of actually see it in my example mech up here. Actually, both of these ones. So they've got their sort of primary color, green on this side, blue on this side. They got their secondary color, yellow on this side, and then I guess red for him. And then the tertiary color for him, you've got the little red spots. His cockpit, his guns, and then for him, it's that big white stripe down his leg. So I like to have that sort of 3-color scheme with most of my mechs. I like to have, and a lot of the models actually. I think that kind of that 3-color scheme is a good one to have in general, just to kind of make it look more visually interesting. I guess this guy does have the 3rd color of the rust. I guess that is his 3rd color. Means now I got to do more rust on him. So, oh, it's really fun. I need to rewatch the episode with him to figure out how I made that rust, because I'll be honest, I've forgotten. All right. Got to do the sides. Okay. Oh, man. Trying to find a good angle for you to be able to see what I'm doing. I had a quick look. I always like to have a quick look at the previous episodes just to kind of see how it framed up, because about half the time I don't see what you guys see. I only see the model in front of me. So I was looking back through it, and I did notice that the snail had a couple times where it was just really all you could see was the stand it was on. So I'm going to try to adjust that for next episode when we finish that guy up, so that you can kind of see that a little better. Oh, interesting. My bristles are starting to get a little wackadoo. There we go. Anytime you find your bristles just sort of opening up on you, like mine were just now, just take and spin them on your palette, and it will bring them together a little bit more for you, which will make your brush a little easier to use. See, I'm doing that same thing where I'm showing you. It's like, I look at the stand. No, you want to see the thing that I'm painting. That's the subject. Yeah, I see other guys doing their paint. Other guys and gals doing their painting videos. I think to myself, how in the world do they always keep their model in frame? Now, a lot of those aren't live streams, so there's a lot of editing. So they find the parts where they did manage to get the model in frame. So hopefully one day I'll have the time and wherewithal to be able to do that. So, all right, yeah, I like that. It adds a little bit more sort of visual interest on the back of this guy. You've got those little sort of highlights of metallic. You've got the little pops of blue here and there, but the primary color is that green, which is still fun. So we've got our base metal, but we gotta keep with that kind of that 2-tone feel, the highlight and the base color, but with that kind of cartoony look. So we're going straight to our shiniest metal, the Stormholt Silver. And again, a lot of these methods you can use, but it would be recommended between the very shiniest and the very darkest parts to put a third color that sort of transitions the two in. Um, but so one of the easiest ways to do that is sort of thin your paint. And actually, there's a whole episode I did on layering, and that one's the Phoenix Hawk, or the guy that is green and brown. That one is a whole episode on kind of getting those really smooth transitions, making it so you don't see you basically you've got brown on the top, you got green on the bottom, and there is at no point a distinct line where it's either of the two. You're just transitioning very smoothly from one to the other. But again, it's as long as you're making a conscious decision of how you're doing it, I think you're doing it right. And even if you're not making a conscious decision, again, going back to that little shoulder scuff, like that's such a delightful accident, and that was not intentional. I didn't do that on purpose. Oh, I gotta stop. Speaking of doing it on purpose, I gotta stop knocking my screen. But yeah, it's just something that just was a happy accident. So, not everything has to be intentional, but where possible, make conscious decisions on your painting. And this was a decision to make a cell shaded looking miniature, and I like it. All right, so we're doing metallics, and basically in the same way that we did the last one, we're just going to highlight the very top parts. Oh, I didn't wash some of the spots. Well, let's do that real fast. Mostly because the washes are going to take forever to dry, so I want to get those started now. So we'll probably end up... You know what? Let's go ahead and... I already put the silver out, but hey, that's the nice thing about the wet palette. I have the silver out, but it's not going to dry before I get to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slap my wash. I have a nice backdrop is also making it hard to see my paints. It's behind the clan invasion. No oil. There's a lot of jokes that null oil is basically your make it pretty juice, or the easy wash. And I gotta be honest, it kind of feels like it sometimes. That being said, I do like playing around with different colored washes. Last week, well, with the snail, I had a lot of fun with the doing the orange with a red wash and getting sort of a new and pretty color for it. But in situations like this, where essentially I'm focusing on the metallic of it, not the color of it, I am okay with using just a good old-fashioned black wash. Now, for this one, I don't want to get the wash on any of the other parts. Oh, like that. So I'm using a slightly smaller brush, trying to just get the metal, which is sometimes hard to do. Luckily, the stuff near it is dark anyway, so if I get a little bit off the sides, it won't be the end of the world. I really want to darken up those ports, so I'm okay with really sort of filling them up. I mean, not too much, but... All right. Oh, let's go ahead and do the front of it as well. I'm still not... I need to do some more work on the front of this guy, but for now... Oh yeah, and I do always enjoy the way it really sort of darkens up the insides of those missile tubes. Difficulty is making sure that you don't end up with bubbles. Because bubbles are not your friends. All right. She might be your friend, but she's not mine. Anyway, that was oh, I got wash on my brush. this away. All right, we're switching back to my non-metallic water. Oh, and I don't know if you can see. Let's see if we can bring this up to the camera. I'm gonna spill metal water all over the place. Can you see? Kind of can. There is a sort of a metal sheen to the water. Oh, yep, there it is. There you go. So this is why generally you want to use a different water for your metallics and your non-metallics, because those metal flakes will get into your other paints on your brush, and then you will have metallic other colors. That being said, if you don't mind that technique, you don't have to not, and it's not like a big thing, but if you're wanting to really just sort of add that extra, if you're wondering why it is sometimes your other colors look very metallic, that is why. All right. So, sip the old coffee. We're going to do the jeweling technique again, although this is going to be rough because I've got an inset canvas that I'm working on, so I'm just going to accept that I'm going to have to redo that top layer. Luckily, I got my paints ready. They're still in the wet palette, so they haven't dried out on me. Still not. Such a tiny surface, and I need to do several layers on it, so this will be interesting. So, because we're doing a red canopy for this guy, we're going to start with our nice dark red, the corn red. Get a vigorous shake. Get the old paint grabbing stick out. You can also use for painting if you want. It's got bristles on the other end. Also, again, I don't know if this is the first time you're seeing me do this and you're wondering, why is he doing that? It is because trying to pour out of these pots is impossibly difficult, and I don't want to gum up my bristles with this extra paint. So I snag a bit out of my pot using the end of the brush that does not have bristles, and there you go. I'd use my bigger brushes, but they are bigger and harder to wield. So this guy's a nice little stand-in. Yeah, we've gotten to the point where basically everything I'm doing is going to be with this here character brush. So we're back to the character brush. We're going to snag the red, and like we did with the rifleman, for the first part of the jeweling, you're just going to cover the whole canopy with your base color. If I remember right, last time I accidentally did this technique. I love the juxtaposition of those two colors on there. Like they're so very sort of different that when they sit next to each other, it looks sort of wrong. All right, got our first layer. We'll let that dry a little bit. Got a lot of parts on this model that are currently drying. That is always the interesting thing, is when you get to the end here, that's when you're definitely to the part where you're kind of just waiting for different spots to dry. Let's see. Rusty water. Yeah, that'll sometimes happen. You get that rusty water. Let's go ahead and get another quick coat, because don't want the undercoat of the green to show through. I want it to be a good proper red. And again, for this, because I don't want it to get up on the different spots, I'm placing the brush on the surface and then sort of pushing it up against the different edges. I want to make sure that I keep this smooth because it's supposed to be looking like glass. Try to keep it nice and smooth. And between these coats, because unfortunately it's taking a bit to dry and I am using my very thin brush, I'm just going to go ahead and just rinse it off just to make sure that my red paint doesn't start gumming up the works. All right, we'll let that dry for a sec, and when we do that, we're going to go to our next lighter red. Actually, Now that I'm thinking about it, what I'm going to probably end up needing to do. So, I don't. Hmm. A lot of times, when your reds get lighter, they end up looking more. Either you can either do a more orange red or a more pink red. And in this case, I don't want it. I don't want it to look more orange. I want it to look more pink. So, yeah, I'm gonna probably just have to just throw some white in there. So this is gonna be interesting. Now you're gonna watch me do some mixing. We've done some mixing in the past, but again, I'm not. This is definitely not my forte. Yeah, it's pretty good. But we're gonna need a little bit more of this dark red. Because I don't want to be using my. Oh, where's my red? There it is. I don't want to be using my red that I'm using as my base color just yet. Or maybe I do. Do I want to do? No, that'll probably be good. I'm gonna go ahead and just use the red I've got. I'm gonna leave a little bit out in case we need it, but it'll be fine. Oh, gotta remember to shake. Always shake your paints. All right, a little bit of white. We don't need all of that, but that's what we're starting with. my very elegant storage system. I got a paper plate or paper bowl that has all my Army Painter paints in it. They really should just end up in the rest of them, but that's where I got my Turbo Dorks. Anyway. So I'll grab a little bit of the white. Don't want to get too far down. And a little bit of the red. I'm just going to do one to one mix for this first color. And if you're mixing in your brush, don't forget to really make sure that you've got all the color mixed. Now what's nice is, if this color ends up being too light, we can always come back through and do some thin coats of the other colors over top of it. Go back to our dark red. So what we're gonna go ahead and do for this first one is I like a lot of times my jeweling to kind of come to the left side. Yeah. You basically get the bottom sort of third with that lighter color. Actually, I'm not too displeased with that. It's not bad. Go ahead and do another coat of this sort of lightish red, which, as it turns out, they actually have a name for that color. It's pink. There we go. Now, for the very bottom, actually, we managed to get relatively little on the edges there, which I'm kind of impressed with, to be honest. I really thought I'd make a complete mess. I'm going to put just another layer of pink down here. Again, using that sort of, so for this one, I don't want to leave as sort of stark a line. Although it would be keeping in theme. All right, for our last color, we're gonna do primarily white, but just with a little bit of red. Actually, that's just a little bit of red. As you can see, I'm not a clean paint mixer. I make a mess. I did the thing that I said not to do, which is to get the paint very deep in the... I think it's called the Pharaoh? No, that's not it. What is the name of that area of the bristles that's down at the very bottom? If anyone knows, please let me know. I know it's just one Google search away, but I'm painting for you guys right now. I can't Google search things. Let's just spend enough time with you guys staring at a blank canvas. All right. And then we're going to do just this very bottom part here. Oh, there we go. Now we're making a mess. That's the stuff I was expecting to see. Trust me when I say I don't want to make a mess. We've gotten to that kind of hard to reach spot. I think once I clean up the lines, this will look a little better. Oh, that does not look good right now. Let's go back to our more mid-tone. So then we got that light color in there. The mid-tone got really, really small. Oh, gosh. And what's nice is it's nice and thin, so I can kind of... Now I've completely covered up the light. Gosh darn it. See, this is why you got to be okay with going over your stuff a couple times, especially with this very detailed sort of stuff. You're really into the weeds now. You gotta just, you know, getting up close and doing this stuff. There we go. Nice sort of curve to it. Once we get that blue cleaned up, it'll look a lot nicer. And then for the final part of a good jeweling, you have to have the reflection on the other side. The idea is that your light's coming in from sort of here, and that's why it's doing what it's doing. And the difficulty is making these dots small. Do we try for a second one, or do we call? We can get... There we go. Nice little reflection lines. Now just clean up the edges, and it'll look a little better. So now the other difficulty though is I'd want to not get the blue in, don't want to get the blue in the red. So I'm going to start with our dark blue. Try to just clean up the edges. A little mark up here. Clean that up. This one here. Oh. Yeah, that's mostly fine. Okay. Whew. All right. And then there we go. Now we've sort of locked that color into its spot. Yeah. Now it kind of looks like reflecty glass. red reflecting glass. Oh, I gotta make sure that doesn't peek up too much. Gotta make sure the glass doesn't look like it's somehow gotten on top of the cockpit, the canopy, edging. Yeah. All right, so we've got the nice dark blue. Then we're gonna come back and we get to finally do that side of the brush edge highlighting that I like so much, because we finally have like the one upraised area here. So we're just gonna do some very thin blue lines. Oh, remember to do this close enough that you can see it. And then another one here. There we go. There we go. Now we've you know, got the lining in. And again, it comes back to that principle of doing your doing the things that are lower first, because you're gonna get stuff on the outside. Yeah, that works. I'm happy with that. So, which means we can finally go back to our metallics, which is good because we are just about out of time. I'm gonna do probably just a little bit of detail work on the metallics, just to kind of show you what I would do, but then I'll probably off camera do the final finishing touches. We didn't get a chance to get back to our Grendel, but that is okay. All right, so I'm gonna grab a very shiny metallic, and we're gonna touch some of the top parts of the metals. So we got this gun here, so we're just gonna do it right along the top. Right along the top. He's got the gun casing over here, needs it as well. So I'm going to try and get those nice top lines. Oh. Try to not make them too thick. There we go. Got a good profile look there. A little bit of shine here. Yeah. Ooh. Let's go ahead and get those. Since we spent all that time getting these in, we're just going to go, we get to do our edge, the brush technique. It's right along the top. Just pick out those tops of the nubs to really bring that out. You know, I'm going to put just a tiny hair. There wouldn't be a lot of reflections underneath his thigh like that, but kind of want to bring out the detail of it anyway. Again, this is more just to have those metal parts really pop, to kind of remind you, oh, by the way, he's got some metal bits on him. I'm gonna hit the top of the gun. Pick out some of the fingers, just to remind you, by the way, he has individual fingers. But again, keeping in mind some of this stuff you won't see because he'll be, you know, there. So I don't want to do all the knuckles because you won't see all of his knuckles. Now for some tougher parts. Go ahead and try to pick out some of these exhaust. Oh, man. It's a tough sell. But I mean, it's not looking too bad. Oh yeah, I like how the exhaust ports for his jump jets are looking. All right. Well, unfortunately, it looks like that is all the time we have for today. But I don't know about you guys, but I had a lot of fun today. I think it's interesting seeing these sort of snapshots of painting. I don't think we get to together see kind of the end of a paint job as much. There's still in this one, like a lot of times I like to do some stuff on the base, as far as like showing, especially because these are Battletech minis. I'd like to show where the back is, the two side arcs, and then do the front arc. So for this one, what I'll probably do is I'll do blue on the two side arcs and then black and yellow on the rear one. Um, but yeah, all in all, I'm really happy with how this guy's turning out. Got some little things that were frustrating me cleaned up. We got the legs cleaned up. We got the metallics cleaned up, and we got the jeweling on the canopy done. And it is fresh off the factory floor, ready to hit the table. So I think what we're gonna do is next week we're gonna finish up our snail. So I have to finish up his side tentacles, do some detailing on that, and then what we're gonna do on camera is go over how to finish up his head, how to clean up those vines and things, and really get him finished up. And then what I'd like to do the episode after that is to talk a little bit about basing. So you've got this big open surface here, and it doesn't have to be big and open. And I think actually one of the things that can be very fun. So I was talking about those different colors. You can really use the your basing to really bring another color to it. I have a bunch of Comstar mechs that are all white with some rust, so that adds an extra bit of color. For that third color, the bases have black rocks and weeds on them that have a bit of pop of color. So we'll play around with this guy because you can really do some interesting things with bases. I think it really is what finishes up a model. So, and I'll have some kits that you'll be able to use that will be good for basing. We'll talk a little bit about that as we get closer to it. But until then, enjoy your painting, have fun out there, stay safe, and I will see you next week for another painting episode. Bye bye.